Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you guys doing alright. I just found a really good video and I want to play this guys for you because one, it has to do with science. Two, it has to do with you don't have to be the greatest scientist to try things and maybe figure things out. Three, my father proves himself to be right and then shows up in mysterious ways and proves racism is fucking fake. It's a trained and learned thing.
The Alkali Raft experiment was a hugely misguided endeavor put on by a really incompetent scientist. But it's also kind of a nice story.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Santiago Terrazaga was an anthropologist who was obsessed with studying violent behavior in humans. In the 70s, he was inspired by an experiment that had been done on monkeys.
So that's what they call it, a anthropologist or something. Cause that's what I do. That's what I've been doing my whole life. That's what the Bible has taught me. That's what it is. It's the beginning of the study of the what the fuck is wrong with man's brain and why we can't seem to just it's because it's a choice. That's it. That's why violence happens. Because Cain chose. He got jealous. That's what it is. Because in his brain, the Lord favored Abel, so he's better. But that's not what the Lord said. The Lord said, he did the work and you didn't. And when I have this contest again, don't you realize you both could win? You both were supposed to win. But you wanted to keep the good shit for yourself. So, that's what your greedy ass get. And then because of being greed, led to jealousy because he lost the contest of morality. And then he stoned his brother to death.
The experiment revealed that most violence in that species was driven by a need to have sex with females. Santiago wanted to test that hypothesis in humans. Santiago said that if he could find the reason for violence in the human species, then he could uncover the secret to world peace. That was his whole thinking.
Now that kind of makes sense because, animals obliterate each other or they have extreme contests. Birds are known to pamper themselves and do all these things to impress the woman with their fucking awesome feathers and different colors, and there's no difference between that and the human world. What's the difference? People fight over women every day, and I'm an alpha. Look, I made them look stupid. Now be with me. I pick things up and put them down. Then you got the pretty boys, just like the birds and all of. They get all swagged up, and then the girls pick them over the dusty dudes. And all these interactions, lead to violence because sometimes people get chose over another person. Some people cheat. Some people lie. Some people do all these things, and oh yeah, they make choices.
Now, I'll pause here to say something about Santiago. Throughout this video, almost any time he makes a decision or has an idea, you'll probably think, wow, what a weird and dumb idiot. And in thinking that, you would be correct. Santiago was a terrible scientist, and you will see that all throughout this so-called experiment.
See, you're gonna think he's a terrible scientist, but I don't. I think he was trying to figure out something, and I'm not gonna say it because they constantly keep fucking saying it during the video, and he just didn't know how to do it. It wasn't that he was terrible. He failed at the experiment, but he succeeded in something else.
But anyways, in the 1970s,
The complete opposite of what he wanted to do.
he devised the Alkali Raft Expedition. In Santiago's experiment, 10 people would be put on a raft that would drift across the Atlantic Ocean from Spain to Mexico over the course of 101 days. At almost 40 feet long, the raft was pretty big. Space wouldn't be a huge issue, and the people's food would all be provided and rationed beforehand. Still, it was super dangerous, but that was kind of the point. Santiago believed in dangerous situations, people would revert to their baseline instincts.
Because they do.
Santiago found 6 women and 4 men from different backgrounds and countries. He chose a diverse group of people to A. create tension, and B. create a microcosm of the world on his raft. Now, with that said, Santiago didn't just pick people at random. He wanted them to have sex with each other. So they were all in their early 20s to mid 30s, and they're all pretty attractive. Santiago also included
No,
a
they're
very
not.
punkish priest in the group.
I'm sorry. For the time, yes, they are. But we live in a future where we're like, yo, bro, like, you what? Like, but I'm an asshole, you know what I mean? I'm one of those, I don't know. It's the truth, though. Like, when you look back in the 40s and 50s and you see regular people, not the movie stars, you'll notice everybody looked like regular and was actually alright with it. This is before the products, and I'm going to shave my beards, and I'm going to put the makeup on, and I'm going to hide my whole face and change it into something that it doesn't even look like. So this is what we call back then. So are they really uglier, or were they just natural?
Because he wanted to see
Which
what
would mean
happen.
they were actually look
In
good.
the 70s, women were starting to have a stronger role in society. So Santiago picked women for the more impactful jobs on the raft. The captain was a woman, the diver who would perform any maintenance on the raft was also a woman, the radio operator was a woman. This was one of the only admirable aspects of Santiago's experiment, but as you'll later find out, Santiago's commitment to this idea was tenuous at best. So, Santiago had his experiment ready and his subjects selected. On the morning of May 12, 1973, the Alkali set off. The experiment as Santiago saw it would basically be he sits in a corner and journals about the people on the raft while they inevitably break down into a lawless mess of violence.
That's the experiment. That's what he wants to happen. Period.
To me, this sounds less scientific and more fetishistic, but that was his plan. And to really bring home
Sounds more MK Ultra.
how weird and non-scientific this experiment was, I should note that the contract the 10 participants had to sign required that they, quote, give their souls, bodies, and minds to Santiago.
Do you understand that these fucking idiots signed their exact essence and everything that they are over to this fucking moron? That's the contract that the rappers and movie stars get. And they didn't get paid. If that shit's real, that guy still owns their soul and their likeness. I mean, it's a piece of paper, but, you know, like, I'm not signing nothing that's giving you permission over my soul. Like, I'll sign a waiver going on this mission because it would be dangerous, and if I get hurt, you don't get in trouble because I chose to come. But my soul and shit, what the fuck is, this is what I mean, bro. Your parents have no idea. They just do things, just like we're doing things, because nobody fucking knew what the fuck was going on.
Note that the contract the 10 participants had to sign required that they, quote, give their souls, bodies, and minds to Santiago.
That's insane.
Santiago would also give out weekly questionnaires to the participants. These would include questions on how they felt about other people on board. Who would they get rid of? Who did they like the most? Who would they most like to sleep with? Some of these questions were about what would compel each person to violence, or what they thought would compel others to violence. Weird and kind of creepy, but these surveys were all answered in private and shared only with Santiago. So, all in the name of science, I guess. Really, it was quite obvious that Santiago wanted his experiment to go in one way: violence. He wanted the raft to break down into a mess of aggression and violence so he could witness it all.
Which is stupid.
But weeks into the voyage, that just wasn't happening.
You know how dangerous that is to yourself? If you make everyone go insane, you're on a little ass boat and you're in the international waters now There is no law. There ain't no rules out there. Whatever I do, I do. And you have to help yourself. You can't fucking... Never mind.
In fact, everyone was basically becoming best friends. They were having a good old time on the raft.
Oh, really?
Videos taken of the experiment show the participants smiling, laughing, and playing games together. Now, Santiago also wanted to...
We're talking about the 70s, where people were still, like, you know, it's like high racism still and shit. Like, you know what I mean? He got random people from all over the world, all different nationalities, and just put them together. So it's like, can we say that, you know, when you get people away from their individual groups and you put them near the people they say they don't like, you can actually tolerate each other and become friends because you're people. At the end of the day, you're all people.
People to have sex with each other. He thought this would create conflict and thus lead to violence. And eventually, Santiago got his wish. Hookups did begin to happen. A few of the men and women slept with each other, but they were just bored. There was no emotional resonance or attachment involved, so the sex wasn't really leading to any conflict at all.
Duh.
In total, the experiment was going the exact opposite direction that Santiago wanted.
Because my father's real.
So as the group got closer and more amicable with one another, Santiago's questionnaires got more provocative. How many times have you masturbated? Who have you had sex with? Who do you want to have sex with? Who do you want to kill? And of course, in response to these bizarre questions and Santiago's increasingly dissatisfied mood, the group began to dislike him. In one questionnaire, a popular response to "Who do you dislike the most?" was Santiago himself. One morning, a few of the people were fishing and someone caught a small
Why would he come up as the person they don't like the most? Because he's the only one flexing fucking power and being annoying. Everyone else is just being natural. And when you get natural people in a regular, natural, well, almost natural environment, the law of reality is going to start kicking in. And when you try to be Mr. fucking Tyrant like back home, you're outnumbered. And we're not going to hear that shit.
Shark. They reeled the shark onto the deck and rightfully the group was quite excited. Reading Santiago's journal about this moment, it seems he thought this was it. This was when the violence would come. In his journal, he wrote that they bashed the shark's head with an axe and ripped its flesh apart. But as far as I can tell from the video footage, the group was just cutting up the shark and eating dinner. There was nothing violent at all happening. And much to Santiago's chagrin, the good vibes kept going. The people on board were just hanging out, hooking up sometimes, and increasingly resenting Santiago. Indeed, the test subjects were becoming closer with each passing day. They had to live with one another, and so they began to share more intimate details of their lives.
Oh, really?
It was a really wholesome and beautiful thing that was happening.
They were bonding.
One participant said the raft was actually an escape from an abusive relationship, and how the people on board helped her through that time.
Oh, really?
Another, the sole African-American woman on board, had a particularly poignant moment. She recognized and shared that her ancestors probably made the same journey across the Atlantic as slaves. This realization, she later said, made her more appreciative of the opportunities she now had. And me.
My black people that are listening, do you understand what you had to go out into the middle of the ocean and figure out? Holy shit, they went through all of that and my black ass is still alive. I can wear sneakers and pants and fucking heat and watch TV and I'm complaining about life. You don't have the right. You have the fucking right to complain about being abused or getting taken advantage of, but complaining about life and shit when you live, like, I mean, I know we're not living as good as we should, but you need to appreciate. You need to really, really look around and see how far you've come without actually even doing anything.
Meanwhile, Santiago was sitting in a corner somewhere, just hoping everyone would kill each other.
Hey there!
One day, the raft's rudder broke. You'll recall that Santiago hired women for the most important jobs on the raft.
No, he didn't.
One such woman was Servain Zanotti. Servain was the raft's diver. She was qualified, willing, and able to dive under the vessel to fix the rudder.
Salute.
But Santiago didn't let her. He said she couldn't go overboard because she was a woman. A weird response considering he hired her to be the diver because she was a woman.
No, it's not. He did that because he knows at this time in the 70s, women were not allowed to be in charge of too much, and now they are becoming in charge of things. So if a man that's not qualified does what, dumb fucks back in the land do and say, you're not doing it just because you're a woman. You're not qualified now, even though I just hired you because you're the most qualified one. And you're literally the only one that fucking knows how to do it. And no. He did that because he knows it'll trigger her. And then he hopes that she'd be on some He-Man Femo shit and be like, no, nigga, this is what you hired me for. Fuck this, women rebel, pick the knives up. And no. You're an idiot. That's what he was trying to do. He's trying to pick at their fucking intimate things. Like it said, he kept asking them all questions. So me being a Batman, you let me ask you a bunch of questions about yourself, I'm going to know about you. I'm going to know what makes you tick eventually, and I'm going to know how to piss you off.
Servain was obviously mad, but she relented.
Or make you happy.
Santiago took her diving gear, which of course didn't fit him, and went into the water. He had no idea how to work Servain's gear. Her mask didn't fit him, and he had no clue how to dive anyways. Santiago completely failed, almost drowned, and came back aboard with the rudder still broken. That night, when Santiago went to bed, Servain dove under the boat and fixed the rudder herself.
Gangster.
Next morning, Santiago found out, and he was furious.
Hater.
This was basically the straw that broke the camel's back. Santiago...
She showed me shit. She took authority that I've already given her, and then I failed in front of everybody and made myself look like an asshole.
Santiago began to blatantly manipulate his, quote, experiment. He called a meeting and told everyone that they were too friendly with each other. He admonished them for not taking the experiment seriously. Then Santiago started reading the responses to their deeply personal questionnaires out loud. For example, he would tell one person that another wanted to kill them, or that a third person wanted to have sex with them. It was a gross and weird way that he thought he could turn the subjects against each other.
Yep.
At one point, he called the sole black woman on board a, quote, primitive, and said that she should sleep with the black man on the raft because, quote, it was natural.
You see how you went right to the fucking race shit? He said, I can't bait none of these white people. They're intelligent. So let me get the black woman. Let me not go at that black man. Let me target this black woman so she can get irate and fucking go crazy. And then the black guy can say, no, you're not going to talk to the sister like that. And you fucking white people brought us out here to make fun of us. And no. Because racism is not fucking real.
Of course, all of this just made the group hate Santiago more.
Hatred
They were
is...
already quite good friends, and Santiago's manipulations really did very little to stop that.
My father said hatred's real. Enmity. But he never said racism is real. Why? Because how the fuck are you gonna hate someone for their skin color when the people of your skin color do the very things that you accuse those people of? Think about it. Who robbed you when you was a little kid? Who stole your first bike? Who took your fucking girlfriend? Who broke it in your house? Who did it? When you add up all the times you've been harmed anyway, physically, mentally, spiritually, blah, 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 how many times was it my people and how many times was it your own? So when you add up and it's your own, now be racist against your own people.
It was around this time that some major...
Oh yeah, that wouldn't make sense because you're not racist against your own people, you're just hating them now. Right?
newspapers got wind of the experiment and informally dubbed it
and nobody
the
likes
sex
a
raft.
hater.
The newspapers reported almost exclusively about the sexual escapades taking place on the raft. The university that Santiago was working with, of course, saw these articles and headlines. They regarded the sex raft story as terrible publicity for the university and immediately severed all ties with Santiago and his experiment. After hearing from his university that he was basically fired, Santiago was more miserable than ever.
Fucking idiot.
Study. But Maria refused to risk all of these people's lives for Santiago an island. Santiago argued that contact with civilization would derail his study.
A big storm's coming. The captain woman says, "You hired me to save everybody. We shouldn't go near that storm. We should go to land real quick because we could die." And he says, "If we go to land, it fucks up the experiment." No.
But Maria refused to risk all of these people's lives for Santiago's seemingly failed experiment. So Santiago just usurped her captaincy. He said she couldn't be captain anymore and instead made himself the captain.
And this is where my father comes.
Santiago had everyone go inside the cabin, lock the doors, and just wait out the storm. Luckily, the storm turned and all the raft got was some rain and wind. But still, Santiago was now the captain of the raft. After this incident, everyone was basically in agreement that they hated Santiago. They even thought about killing him, going so far as to theorize about how they could do it and make it look like an accident. The group eventually reconsidered and decided against killing Santiago.
You see why your lucky good people are good? Because when we get put in situations where we can get rid of you, dumbass, and nobody will ever know, we don't do it.
Then one...
Oh yeah, it's when you put our lives in danger and think you're fucking God.
Morning, a freighter was heading their way. Literally, the giant ship was coming straight at the raft and would run them over if it didn't turn. If this happened, they would all die. Santiago, the now captain, panicked. He ran around the raft screaming with no clue what to do. Meanwhile, Maria...
Remember, Danny? Everybody want to be captain until the real shit starts. Then they're running around throwing the hat on other people, talking about, "Here, you're captain now."
The former captain remained calm. She gave everyone instructions on how to signal the freighter to change course.
Oh, really?
Maria had them fire flares, wave signals, and sound the raft's horn. At the last minute, the freighter changed course and avoided the raft.
Wow, simple
From then
things.
on, Maria was rightfully the captain again.
She is the
After
most
that
qualified.
incident, Santiago kind of withdrew from the experiment entirely. He stopped giving out questionnaires, stopped taking notes, and stopped holding meetings. Instead, he just kind of sulked by himself. Santiago got sick and just sat in the cabin all day and all night being tended to.
And thus everyone became friends, left the experiment, blah blah blah, and this retard got sick, and my father sat his ass down for a little bit because, you know, you're putting people's lives in danger, and you think, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, it's crazy the things people actually do. Now I want to talk a little bit about, you know, things like that, because I've, as a man of science and a thinker, and not actually being able to do things, like when I talk about my science, it's mental science, it's things like that. And when I talk about sexual alchemy, that's what the fuck I'm talking about. It's that simple. It's things like that. It's because I learned and see things like this that I understand that people actually can get along. Other people don't want that. And who gives a shit about what they want? We're free to do things now. They made it laws. And which brings me to many things. Well, not many, just certain things like this GMB thing that I've been trying to put together and basically do an experiment of, can poor people get together in a small group and actually make sure they live better. Mathematically. No spooky dooky fucking spiritual most high stuff. No. You work, I work, they work, she works. They work, and we put our money together and we do things and we make sure that we're not fucked up like everybody else. I mean, I think I kind of got that from the Spanish people that I watch coming to my neighborhoods and all my other brothers and sisters' neighborhoods around the fucking country when I was a young man, and they came in and they lived in an apartment, like literally 10 deep, 5 deep in one little ass apartment, and we used to make fun and not understand what they were doing, and then before you know it, each one of them niggas had their own apartment. Or they didn't get the apartment and they stayed together. And the next thing you know, they disappear and we don't know where they are. And then they come back and they live across the street, out the projects, in a house. And we're like, what the fuck going on? And then next thing you know, there's a line and they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And then they got a store up there. And then they got a hair salon and a fucking, what the fuck's going on? This ain't even Blackville no more. This is, oh shit, they're taking over. No, they're not taking over. They're living life and doing exactly what you're supposed to do as a group of people. Settle in one area, stick the fucking together, and brand out and build your people. And the people that are there that are not building and doing anything together, you'll be pushed to the side because money talks and bullshit walks. Get it? Got it? Good. Now, on that level, that's a good experiment that I've been trying to get together for fucking 15 years now. But, you know, I keep getting it on and off and on and off. And, you know, we trial and error. Now, when I come to the sexual alchemy thing, that's something I actually do want to try. And probably will never be able to because you need money or grants and you got to be like a real fucking scientist guy. But you really don't because science is trying things and then, you know, trial and error. And sexual alchemy is about raising your vibration, your mental capacity, your brain, your knowledge, your spirit, your happiness. And pushing your vibration into the one that you love, not some random fucking woman. You're not going to raise your vibration so you're the sex stud of the fucking year. You're raising your shit up so you can have a wife. So when you raise your soul and your body to the highest maximum, you have a child. So you can birth a god among men. Because you know everybody's weak as fuck now, you know? So everybody just has kids. Everyone's just going out and, you know, they don't plan pregnancy. They just have a kid. I want to make kids better than the others because we have the fucking power and knowledge to. Everybody's playing around. Or maybe you're not. You're living the best way you know how. But all I do know is, when I read the story of, Yaakov, the big head scientist, and it said that this black guy wanted to punish black people, and he made, everybody that, you know, the races. And then it ends with him making everything go back to the way it was and giving everybody their melanin back. But you know how everybody got their melanin back. And then I said, well, that's sort of like what the Bible said. And, you know, everybody was one color. And then we sinned. And then the Most High started changing everybody. And then I said, well, is it going to ever go back that way? How are we going to get back there?